Then I'm living on fucking unemployment in Manhattan, and I'm bouncing between free detoxes and whatever. I went to a shitty rehab. Some dude, my roommate, was just like, let's go get high. And I left. And he's like, you're an idiot if you snort. And I was like, okay, let's shoot. Let's shoot then. And that was the beginning of me shooting. And I never snorted again. It's crazy to look back at it though.
Yeah, because it's like if you're watching a movie, you're like, well, what do you think's gonna happen? But when it's you, you're kind of like,
I think when people ask, how could you do that? How could you be so stupid? As a sober person, you're like, I don't even know. But if you really look at it, it's like you had this illness that you were medicating, and then the medication really fucks you up, and you don't have good judgment once you're doing it. Not to mention, it's incredibly addictive. And I don't know why I thought I know that when I decided that I was going to sniff heroin every day, for a second, I thought I could pull it off. And then like I'm doing that calculation in my head over and over. How long can I be on this run? How long can I pull this off? And it was never long. But that's why like my story is so full of methadone. I was on methadone forever because I knew I couldn't afford to be on heroin.
Welcome to the Hell Has an Exit podcast with host Teddy Tarantino. New episodes every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget to subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Hell Has an Exit. I'm your host, Bryan Alzate. This is a recovery podcast about addiction, mental health, and what people do to stay clean. And today we have a special guest, Dave from Dopey Nation. He has his own podcast, Dopey Podcast, and from New York City. Welcome.
Thank you, Bryan.
Has the owner of Katz ever been like, hey, maybe don't banter the people that work here to do your podcast?
No, because I'm like sick. Like I've chased people out of the store if they didn't leave a tip.
Okay.
I've made customers cry.
And you worked there long enough where he just trusts you.
I thank God I don't work in the store anymore. I work remotely now. I just like set up events for them and do social media and shit. But I waited tables there for 11 years.
Wow.
And I learned.
Oh, so through active addiction.
Yeah. In and out.
Whoa.
In and out. I was managing Katz's. I was waiting tables there. And I was high on heroin. And I would like nod out. I would like nod out on the job. I would eat off customers' plates. I was a manager. I would nod off into the money. I would have to count the money on Saturdays or Sundays or whatever. And as I'm counting it, I'm like fucking passing out into the money. And then they fired me. And I was like, don't fire me. I had a kid. I was like, I have a kid. And they were like, well, you can never manage the store again. And I said, okay. And I went to treatment. And that's when I met Chris.
Wow.
When I went to treatment.
And that's how you got clean?
No.
You kept using them to that? Wow.
Yeah. I got clean for a year and went to NA for a year. I had to take a hair follicle test to have custody of my kid to get the weekends or whatever. And I was like, I stuck to it. Had a couple drinks that year. Like I wasn't 100%. And once I took the hair follicle test, a couple months later, it was like Hurricane Sandy or something. And I smoked weed and I was like, fuck it. And I just smoked weed every day for years. And then I got sober for the whole time.
So how long did Chris have clean when you guys started doing the show? Because did he stay clean after you met him in rehab?
No.
Wow. And then you guys reconnected?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We met in rehab. We just talked shit in rehab. We like basically did Dopey in rehab. And then we got out. We both stayed clean for a bit. And then Chris started relapsing, drinking. Chris was running a sober living in Brooklyn. He was the manager of the sober living in Brooklyn. And he's like eating ecstasy. Fucking then he's shooting heroin as the manager of the sober living, like managing the house, locking himself in the office with like the urine samples and shit. And I was clean. And then he bottomed out and I started smoking weed and then he got clean. And when we started the show, I had somewhere between 4 and 6 months, and he had like a year and a half.
Wow.
And that was the beginning.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Manhattan.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
What was your childhood like?
I grew up in a My parents were both teachers, super middle class, Jewish life. I grew up in public housing in Chelsea. So it's like firemen and like teachers and like just middle class, kind of middle income people. And I got into this really, really, really good elementary school. Like you take a test when you're 4 and 50 kids get in out of like 15,000 or something crazy. And I was in that school from when I was 4 till I was 17. And it like defined my whole life basically. And I was very sheltered, you know, like.
Now is that school, are you like, what was high school and middle school like? Were you like in that school feeling like you belonged there? Or did you feel like you didn't belong there? Were you there with like crazy smart kids?
Crazy smart kids. It was crazy smart kids. And I had a really, really tight group of friends who I'm still really tight with. So I felt really like I belonged with them, but I definitely was outsmarted by the school in terms of like academics. I didn't do well. The school actually asked me to leave a number of times. Like I was definitely on the bottom end of the school's kind of thing. Like a couple of really famous playwrights went to the school. The dude who wrote Frozen, you know, like Let It Go and all that, he went to our school. And the dude who wrote Hamilton, Lin-Manuel Miranda, went to our school. And Max Kellerman from SportsCenter, who used to do First Take with Stephen A. Smith. And I knew all those guys growing up, and they weren't particularly smart. But the thing of no offense to any of those guys if you're watching.
Yeah.
But like I felt like I belonged in the social aspect of it, but I definitely didn't belong in the academic.
And when did you start like using or feeling different, or like what pulled you to drugs?
It's interesting because you know how like first drug or the first thing that kind of makes you feel like you know something's up, and I didn't recognize it, and I've only started to identify it recently, which is like I had this, first of all, deep fearfulness. Like I was deeply afraid of lots of shit. Like I would sleep on my parents' floor like every night until I was 10 or something crazy.
Post-traumatic stress or just,
I don't know. I just would wake up in the middle of the night terrified, and I would be too scared to be alone in my room, and I would sleep on their floor. And then I kind of bonded with my friends to the point that I didn't really feel okay unless I was with them. And I developed this codependency with these kids, and in the summers I didn't hang out with them. I would like, my parents worked at a camp and I'd have to go to the camp, and I kind of felt all the like the telltale alcoholism things there, like not comfortable in my skin, like nervous, like I didn't fit in. But during the year I had this group of friends that made sure I fit in. In the summers I was total alcoholic. And when I was 16 or something, I got a job at a different summer camp as a waiter. I had no friends. Last night of the year, I had friends with like the European kitchen staff, and they would drink heavy. Last night of the summer, I like drank 16 screwdrivers, blacked out, projectile vomiting. And that was the first time I drank. I drank to blackout. Never could drink again, really. I think I was actually allergic to alcohol. But when I tried weed, like I was like, this is how I want to feel. And then I didn't really start becoming real addicted until I left that school. I went to college and felt alone again. So it was like when I felt alone, like the alcoholic gene turned on, and I sought substances to make me feel okay.
As a young college Dave, what are you like? What are you going to school for? Like, what's your social life like in college?
In high school, I was an intern at MTV, and I wound up on MTV.
That's cool.
So I like was very full of myself. I was like, I'm cool. I've been on MTV. Like I can do whatever I want. You know what I mean? In my mind, like I was really grandiose. I'm still pretty grandiose, but I was very grandiose then. And I played in a band, you know, like I was a musician, and we all started smoking weed. And I was just like, I believed the dream. Like I believed we were going to have a successful band. I believed like I was going to do whatever I wanted. And then I started smoking weed probably freshman year of college, and then tripping, and then taking whatever pills were around, and then coke, and like it just kind of escalated. I started smoking weed in freshman year. I didn't stop smoking weed until I was 41.
Wow.
I like didn't take it. The only days I didn't smoke weed between whatever 19 or 18, whatever, however old you are, and 41 was if I was in jail or detox or rehab. There was not a day that I was free that I didn't smoke pot.
You kind of still have those high eyes.
I know. It's crazy.
You still have those chinky eyes. Were you super chinky when you were smoking?
Yeah. Yeah. I look high all the time. I feel high all the time. I really do. Do you ever feel like that? Can you access your stonerness?
So I think my stonerness left me too early. I think I access my crackheadness for sure.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
That's less fun to access. Though.
Way less fun. But I don't know. Like I fell in love with weed, but it was like as soon as I found coke and as soon as I was getting drug tested, I didn't have the ability to keep smoking. So I was getting drug tested so early that weed is the worst drug to do if you're getting drug tested. So I did love marijuana. It was just such a easy drug to get caught doing because it smells like, you get, caught in your urine, and then I could do coke and it would come out. So I do think I have like little acid flashbacks.
Yeah, I have those. It's also like kind of late at night right now for me. So like, and when I talk about it, I feel those days.
Yeah.
And I like to feel like the thing about weed is I felt relaxed. Like the way I am naturally, and I guess I'm not like that naturally anymore, but I'm nervous. I'm neurotic. I overthink. And weed was like the perfect thing for me at that age. And then it turned into, coke was never good for me. The thing that was really good for me was weed, opiates, benzos, and opiates. And like, I just fell in love with all three of them. But I always wished I had just stuck with weed. If I had stuck with weed, like sky was the limit. And unfortunately, it didn't happen like that.
Yeah, it's also one of the hardest drugs to put down because it seems so innocent and cute and fun. And like a lot of people, dude, they can see why they shouldn't do heroin, but they're like, dude, weed, come on. I mean, and then now there's a lot of people who are doing the California sober thing. So
yeah, I met one of them today.
Yeah.
How about Kratom?
Oh my God. What a nightmare. I just want to blatantly say that there's no debating it. Kratom is not useful to anyone, and it's a hardcore drug, and people should not take it. That's just my opinion.
It's like, it's nobody knows what they're getting. I mean, heroin, you kind of have an idea. Crack, you kind of know you're not supposed to be smoking crack.
It's like, dude, it's 4 a.m. This guy's like wearing the hood. This person got like a gun to their head.
Yeah.
We're going to smoke crack. Kratom is like, it's at the gas station. They're selling it at a head shop or whatever.
And it says on it, like, it's this supplement. It's this herb. And then problem with Kratom, whatever you call it, you know better than me because you run this treatment. Kratom, it is?
I don't know. I think it's either or. Tomato.
Fucking, it's like everybody's on Suboxone from Kratom.
Yeah.
That's depressing.
And it's like, I have like real world like experience. So it's like, mine's not from, reading a book or some shit, because there are some people who are like, why don't people just do Kratom? Isn't it like, organic or some shit? I'm just like, dude, do you know how many people like that is the one drug they can't get off? And it's so addicting. It's just like Suboxone or heroin. And their biggest struggle is not taking Kratom, and then they slip into heroin again or any type of opiates. But man, the withdrawal from it is just like opiates. I mean, I have a lot of friends that was their biggest downfall, was they were clean for years. They started fucking around with Kratom, and then, dude, for years they couldn't get off of it. They would slip back into opiates and then do Kratom, and then it's so easy to hide because you don't look like too high on it, but it's a fucking opiate, which is just so crazy. And then I think you need to drink so much of it that it's might as well just be doing opiates, but at least you don't die. So I do understand that, like, okay, maybe you're not playing Russian roulette every night with fentanyl, But
that'll be fucked up when they start secretly replacing the Kratom
the
with
Kratom
fentanyl. That's crazy. That's it's not that funny, but I think it's kind of funny.
Where even the Kratom has that. I mean, dude, now they put it in cocaine.
Oh yeah, it's in everything.
Weed. I think I just saw something.
They don't put in weed.
What?
They don't put in
They
weed.
put it in weed.
They don't put in weed.
Oh my God, they do.
How do you know that? Are you saying they put kratom in weed or they put fentanyl?
They put fentanyl.
I don't think so.
What?
I don't think so.
There's a whole thing that I read, I think today, where people are warning people not to smoke weed because they're putting fentanyl in the weed.
Yeah, I made the announcement on Dopey that's bullshit.
You don't think it's true?
Honestly, I hear both sides.
Why would they put it in cocaine? I think that's even more insane.
Okay.
Why would you put it in cocaine? It's an upper. At least weed is kind of a downer.
I think, and again, we're two people with I mean, you have 17 years.
16 years.
16 years. I'm coming up on 9.
Okay.
So like I haven't bought coke or fentanyl.
Neither have I.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But like I think, and we both talked to a ton of people in the industry. We both work in the industry in different ways.
Yeah.
From what I understand, it's because fentanyl is so addictive that coke dealers want to put it in. It makes the coke. I mean, if I was doing coke, I would love for them to put fentanyl in my coke. I mean, I don't want to die, but I loved speedballs.
Yeah.
I loved heroin with coke. I mean, it's not like coke. It's not like coke, but I bet it feels better.
You don't think weed is the same argument?
But weed is so natural and beautiful. You can't be putting fentanyl in weed.
I would imagine kids that I grew up with would be like, hey, we're pressing these Roxys. Why not just put this on some bud?
Definitely. That's the good argument. That's a good argument. I cannot believe.
I mean, fentanyl is so cheap.
I know.
That they're probably like, what are we going to do with all this fentanyl?
Let's put it on weed. Let's put it on weed.
Let's just put it on all this
mix them in the Kratom.
bud.
Let's mix in the Kratom, put it on bud.
They make candy now. That's like, like a lot of people are going to 10 plus years in prison because they're selling marijuana cartridges that have cartoons on them.
Yeah.
And because they have cartoons on them, it's like
marketing for kids.
It's like marketing for kids.
Yeah.
It's like you got people or like Skittles or some shit. They have like a fake Skittles bag that's like marijuana or some shit.
Yeah.
Dude, they're getting serious prison time because it's, marketed towards kids.
Who? Where?
I have a close friend of mine. My teacher's son got caught with like a fucking.
Here?
No, he was going interstate.
See, the thing,
but he had a lot of cartridges that had like kid cartoons,
Scooby-Doo
and shit on it. Yeah.
See, if I was smoking weed, I would definitely want the Scooby-Doo cartridge.
Dude, if I was in preschool, I'd want that.
Even now, that would be my shit. But Florida is the weirdest place in the world. In Florida, you can get fucking Kratom at the store. They don't sell it in New York? They do, but they do. You can get Kratom at the store. Staying in a casino. Everyone's fucking gambling their lives away, and they don't sell weed. Like I can't. Pill mills, fucking.
Yeah, we don't have dispensaries.
Why not?
I don't know.
Seems like Florida would be the home of the greatest dispensaries.
I think we're just backwards like that, where we're like guns.
Yeah.
No laws on our businesses.
No taxes.
Fucking.
But no weed. We'll draw the line at weed.
Like we're really strict on like our religious beliefs. But that fucking marijuana, weed is so easy to get that if you're like that fucking retarded to not be able to get it, you shouldn't be buying it.
People don't like it when people say retarded. I got big trouble for that.
You think so?
People don't like it. The R word, retarded. Man. That was the Dopey catchphrase. The slogan for Dopey was
retarded?
It's retarded. that was what I wanted our catchphrase to be, and people don't like that.
They hate it. I know.
They don't like that.
They don't like a lot of things that I think I grew up on.
Me too.
I think I would stop saying stuff if somebody, like I probably wouldn't go on a podcast and say certain words just because like know your audience and whatever. But it is like, something that I think it's like, man, there's like all these great things said and this person said this one thing. Even like Gary Vee, like he curses so much. Some people are like, why does he have to curse? That's just how he talks.
He's a New Yorker, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, I like that Gary Vee.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably one of like the social media people that haven't been pointed out as like a fraud yet. I think he has done like a couple scammy things with NFTs, but I think everyone kind of did at one point. But
NFTs. I can't believe people bought into that.
Oh, don't get me started. I went crazy with them.
So what are they worth now? Nothing?
The ones that I bought, nothing.
Bupkis?
No, I think I did really well with a couple of them, and I just thought they were really going to take off, and man, they did not. Some people still believe in this. People right now trading them and selling them.
Fucking Bitcoin's at like $71,000.
Yeah,
right
I was
now.
really into crypto and NFTs.
Did you get rid of it all?
Yeah.
It's at $71,000 right now.
I know.
I didn't get rid of anything.
You have it all?
I have it all, but I didn't have much. And I bought it way too high. I think I'm finally ahead. After I was behind for a long time, I was just like, I'm not selling.
I bought a lot, and then my business partners were like, "You're an idiot. What are you doing?" I called like my mentor, asked him about it. He told me I was an idiot.
That's always fun.
So then I was like, "Fuck!" And then I like chilled out. And then Bitcoin went to like 10,000, and I was like, "Fuck yeah!" So I bought like a whole Bitcoin at 10,000, and then it just tanked back down, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And then I sold some, and then I diversified in a bunch of other ones, and then I would just keep buying throughout the years. And then right before 2020, I had I think like 300, 400 grand worth of crypto, and then someone was like, "Get into NFTs," and I'm like, "I'm not fucking, dude. I did good on crypto. I'm not fucking touching it." But then I didn't realize that NFTs basically are crypto, that you're just converting your ETH to this picture that's also worth ETH. So then I was like, oh, I don't need to put anything in it. I could just, it's almost like buying different altcoins, but they're these pictures. And then I went crazy. I did like 3 good trades. I thought I was like a genius.
You were for that day.
I thought I was like fucking killing it. Dude, I was telling everyone and their parents to buy this NFT. I was like saying, this isn't financial advice, but you know,
I'm not a professional financial planner, but
you should buy this fucking monkey picture. That
where can I find
where can
I find this monkey that shits tacos?
On OpenSea.
It's still there?
No, I mean, yeah, there's a whole bunch of them, but then I quickly realized that a lot of it was luck, and I did a lot of bad trades. And then I almost lost it all. And literally for like there's probably 3 NFTs out of like 70, maybe not 70, maybe like 30 that I bought. And those 3 did really well. And I was able to like recoup my money. And then I just pulled it all out. And I almost like broke even. But then crypto like went to shit, and NFTs went to shit. And then I should have just bought real estate like a normal person.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Like when Chris and I started Dopey, somebody in England was like, "We want to donate to you guys. Do you have a
Coinbase or crypto?
What is the wallet? What's it called?
A wallet."
Yeah. And Chris had one because he was obsessed with this shit. He's like, "Yeah, I have it." And I feel like it was the very beginning of Bitcoin or something. And I think they gave us like a Bitcoin or something, or half of one, or some like decent amount of digital currency. And then Chris died, and like I couldn't have, it's gone, like, and who knows what that thing is now. And I think about it every day of my life. It pops into my head once a week, maybe once a month. It's just so annoying. Oh my god, it's like things like that are so fucking annoying. Yeah, one day, I mean, like maybe one day I'll get some good advice and I'll know where to put something where it could actually grow.
Or just diversify. I mean, that's kind of like what I'm trying to do now, is just not like, I went crazy with crypto and it could have like fucking fucked me up.
But you were diverse enough.
Yeah, I had real estate at the time and I still had other shit. But there was a time where I'm like, I'm going to sell all my real estate and fucking...
Thank God you didn't do that.
And go into crypto and...
real estate is so tangible.
Yeah, I like real estate. And I even like physical things. I buy fucking stupid baseball. I don't even like sports. So I just buy baseball cards and basketball cards.
Well, you're young, you're single, you don't have children, you have a good business. It's like, do whatever you want. Enjoy it. It's fucking amazing.
I do. Some of the things I enjoy it too much. I need to slow down.
All right, well, slow down if you want to slow down. You can be old like me. I mean, like, my whole thing is just like kids. You know what I mean? My whole thing.
How old are your kids?
I have a 5-year-old and a 14-year-old.
Wow.
And like, they saved my life. like my 14-year-old, like wasn't like I got sober for her. I got sober because I couldn't visit her without my dad taking me to see her. And I was just a junkie. And I was just like, who the fuck am I? You know what I mean? Like that I can't visit my daughter, like that I'm this child. I was 35 and I was this, or 36, and I was this dependent child that I had been my whole life, but now I have a baby and my fucking 70-year-old father or whatever needs to drive me to Long Island to see her. And I still didn't get sober for another 5 years. But that was like the thing that kicked it in. And I mean, I love being a father. It's the best. It's like it's the best thing I ever did. I mean, I have being a father and I have Dopey. Like those are my things that I've loved more than anything. And I love being a father more than Dopey. I can say that because I think the one thing that I've been thinking a lot about, it's like life is all about relationships. You know what I mean? Like when you die, the most important thing that you can have are relationships. And that doesn't mean everyone should have children. I'm not like, Bryan, go fucking knock up chick and get kids, whatever. I'm just saying relationships are the most magical thing in your life. Besides a really good NFT, relationship and like the relationship with your kids are so powerful because you're their father. You know what I mean? And it's like there's so much love. It's like it's intense. And I love that. That's crazy investment. You put love into your kids and the love comes back.
Yeah. And it's like
do I sound cheesy?
No. I mean,
a little bit.
No, not at all. My business partner, super successful dude, into cars, watches, way more materialistic than I think I am. And when he had a kid, he called me in the hospital and was like, "You gotta have a fucking kid." And I was like, and at the time, dude, I was so anti-kid. I was like, dude, like cool. And he was like, "You have to have a kid because let me tell you something. When you buy a car, you could go buy another car, and then you could buy a fucking Ferrari, and then you could go buy a Bugatti, and if you buy a house, you could buy another house." And he's like, "But when you have a fucking kid, that's it. You couldn't get a better, even if there was a better, smarter, good-looking kid, you'd kick it in the head to save your kid. You want your kid because it's yours. It's you. You can't even, that's it. That's all there is to it, you know?"
It's wild because you do get to like protect yourself through the kid and love yourself the way maybe you should have been loved. You know, love the kid the way you should have been.
It's like a
parented.
Tamagotchi.
This guy?
No, I said a Tamagotchi.
What's a Tamagotchi?
You know what a Tamagotchi is?
No.
It's like one of those digital pets. You never had one of those?
No, I'm fucking 50. I never had a Tamagotchi. Are you crazy?
But like you get to raise.
You really don't want children. I see it in your face.
No, I think I do now that I'm older because I think as I get older, I'm like, man, I don't want to be 40 years old asking a girl who's 25 what her fucking favorite color is.
Do you ask them that?
Yeah, you got to know a girl's favorite color.
All right. I mean, but you seem like it's like you're 33.
I'm 33. And like, dude, after a while, dude, if you're in your mid 30s and you're single, you're the creepy dude.
No, you've got like 17 years.
Sure.
You could be fucking 50 and still be rocking it.
Yeah.
You could.
Okay. Even if you're 50 and single, like when I go to the strip club, I haven't been in a long time, but like I have gone to a strip club a lot. When I would go to a strip club, I would see a guy there who's 50 years old and he's there all the time. It's kind of like, dude, where's your fucking family?
Right.
Like, I think when I see men with family, I really do think that is like a man. When I see like a dude with a bunch of chicks that's 50, I'm like, damn, that kind of sucks because not that that's not fun, but it's like, it does kind of, and I never really thought like this until recently that I'm getting older, that it's like, dude, what do you like? I don't know. It's like, you got to grow up, Peter Pan.
It's definitely the final frontier. It's like,
and
the
I know
final
some
frontier.
people like, dude, I used to think like I would never get a family. I'd never be in a serious relationship. Like, but.
Well, are you in a serious relationship?
No, but I was in one. Okay.
Well, what's going on?
We broke up.
Well, what's the plan? When did you break up?
December.
It's March. Are you in pain?
I was, yeah. It was like the worst pain ever. I wanted to. Like,
How long were you with her?
months, not even.
How
Maybe,
long?
I think like 90, maybe like 120 days.
120. How old was she?
27.
And you're 33.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened?
That's such a long story. I'll tell it on when we do our interview. But I was doing porn, right? Doing OnlyFans stuff. I had been doing it for 5 years. You know, basically like left my treatment center company, got bought out by the treatment center I was at, and then was doing porn full time. Wanted to do porn full time. Was still doing the podcast because I love the podcast. And at that time, I had been single for 10 years. I have not been in a monogamous relationship for 10 years. Never wanted one. Just was never that guy. As soon as me and a girl would get super close, I would just like distance myself or whatever. And I met this girl, and within days, I was like, wow, I'm in love with this girl. Like, I'd never felt that since I was a little kid, like never. And I was like, what the fuck? And I had all these plans. I probably dumped $250,000 into doing like a whole business plan of gonna do adult entertainment. And I met this girl, and I was just like, what the fuck is happening to me?
So you stopped?
Yeah.
Because of the girl?
Yeah.
Did you start up again when you were done with her?
No, because so when I stopped, I started getting jealous of her also doing porn.
I would not be able to make it.
And I've dated tons of girls who do OnlyFans and porn, and I've gone to like swingers clubs. That stuff's never bothered. I've never cared. Because I've never really been like, you're my girl, but like, you're not really my girl. Like, come on. And then it's like, I know I'm not going to stop hooking up with other people. And here I am sitting at home. She's getting blown out by, you know, the top of the top porn world. And I'm over here just thinking about it. Like, this is the girl I'm in love with, hooking up with other people right now on camera. And I was like, dude, if we're going to be together, I can't be with you if you're going to still do it.
And what'd she say?
And she thought about it, and she was like, you know, fine. And she stopped doing it too. And she was making a crazy amount of money, so she's also giving up like a ton of money to do that. And then we were just like fighting and arguing. I caught her lying about stupid things. And then like, you know, in recovery, it's like, dude, don't lie. You know? And it's like, I don't care if you lie to like the police about something, but like, you're not going to lie to me about something.
Is she in recovery?
No.
Yeah, it's hard.
And like, not in recovery. I told her like, if we're gonna be together, we're gonna go to therapy. Went to couples therapy, had like 2 sessions. I've been going to therapy for years. She started going to therapy, but it's like a little too late, you know?
She lives near here?
Miami, yeah. But she's from like a small ass town.
Well, never say never. Never say never.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think you will have a family when you're ready to have a family.
Yeah, I think I'm open to it now, which I was never open to it before.
Well, you've done so much shit and you're young.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when you're using and you do the same shit over and over again, at least you're high. You're not using. So it's like, I've done this. What's next? Right? Mm-hmm. It's like, and now you're at that point where it's like, at least even getting a toe in the idea of something new. Mm-hmm. It's like I think you're on the right path.
Yeah. And I think, like I say before, like when I see people that are really good fathers, like to me, I think that's way cooler than being like if you're super successful but a shitty dad, you might as well just kill yourself, you know? Like, yeah, being a shitty dad is almost the worst thing you can be on the planet, other than like a pedophile. But like,
or both, that'd be really bad.
Yeah, you're both. You know, I'm sure there's no pedophile who's a good dad, but it's.
Well, I was not a great father to my older daughter for the first 5 years of her life, but I never missed a visit. You know, I never missed a fucking payment. Mm-hmm. I would go out there high on heroin, like, and I would visit her as a baby with my wife's parents, mm-hmm. and I would be nodding out with her parents, and they'd be like, wow, Dave looks really sleepy. And it was like, it was a disaster, but but I never missed, you know what I mean? It's like if you put in the time, even if you're a waste, it's like the time gets paid back. And I don't know, like I have such a bond with my younger daughter is very willful. Like I love my younger daughter, but my older daughter, I have this crazy bond with her. Like the other day, like before I left, we're like watching Survivor, playing video game pool on our phones, and she's like, Daddy, I'm gonna miss you just for this trip. And I was like, that's nice. And like this morning, I made her a roast beef sandwich. I took her to fucking Starbucks. I dropped her off at Wind Ensemble, and then I ran and got the plane. And it's like, I don't know. It's easily the best thing that I got to do in my recovery.
Yeah, easily.
Like it's fucking amazing, really.
What led to hardcore using for you?
I went to art school. You know, I was in college. I got kicked out of my college for having a bunch of weed, and at the same time, I had applied to transfer because I was in a private school, and I applied to transfer to a public school. I got busted with the weed. I got suspended, and then rather than getting suspended, I transferred, so nobody found out. And in the art school, like drugs were crazy. Like we were selling.
It's part of class.
Well, it's part of the social scene. Everyone's on drugs, and me and my roommate started selling acid, and we just like we had no money, so we sold acid and we'd make a ton of money, and then all of a sudden like ecstasy would show up, and then like heroin showed up, and I did a little heroin, and I was like, and I was really into the weed. But I think what it was more than anything was
You snorted the first time?
Yeah. I loved rock and roll music. I loved that outlaw culture. I loved that weird artist scene. So like drugs was very much a part of that. So like the Beatles like were big drug addicts, and I loved their story, like the Doors or Led Zeppelin or fucking the Velvet Underground or the Rolling Stones. Every one of those bands, their stories are fucking chock full of drug use, and I was so into it. And then like fucking like the beat writers and shit, like Jack Kerouac and all the, I was an art history student. I was like fucking on drugs. I loved it. And I wanted to be not a drug addict. I wanted to be worldly. And I thought to be worldly, I had to do drugs.
Like a Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah, exactly. And then I wound up graduating school, and I got an apartment in Manhattan, and my girlfriend cheated on me, and my friend moved in with me. And I was like, all right, you can move in with me. I'll pay the rent and you buy the drugs. And he got a job delivering weed around New York City, and he started finding coke spots. We would do coke, whatever. And then we found we were like 22 or something, and we found a drug delivery service that delivered every drug: coke, heroin, GHB, ecstasy, everything.
So I was like a big Half-Baked fan when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so weird to me because it's like, no one's delivering anything to you in Florida.
Well, they'll deliver fucking anything in Manhattan. And I became a weed delivery guy too. But at the same time, I wound up working in TV production, and I had a job in Michigan or something. And I went out to be a location scout in Michigan. And when I came home, my friend is in my apartment, the guy who had moved in with me, with a bunch of kids from our art school, and they were all buying coke from the delivery service. And I never liked coke. But I said, and
there was nothing sketchy about it?
Wow. I mean, I'm sure there was. What do you mean?
But I mean, like, there was never like, this could be a cop or they could scam you or whatever. It's legit.
It was funny because the kid from the delivery service was like 16 or something. And the card was, the company was called Indulge.
How did they verify people? Anyone could call this number and get coke delivered?
I think there was a code we had. You know, it's like, I don't know. It was like it's very bullshitty. We were fucking 22. The kid was 16. The card was a business card. It was like with a little silhouette of a guy with a top hat, and it said Indulge in script. And so I come home, and I think I'm like fucking streetwise, and like this kid is in my apartment selling, 10 grams of coke, and I'm like, dude, you're making a lot of money in my apartment. what do you want to give me for it? And he's like, okay. And he reaches into his fucking whatever he had, his tote full of drugs, takes out 2 bags of heroin, drops it on the table. He's like, you can have that. And me and my friend Todd snorted the heroin that night, got higher than we had ever been. And in the morning, it was like Sunday night, we watched The Simpsons. We were fucking high and stupid. And in the morning, it was even higher.
Is it funny that, like, in my mind, I'm like, back when heroin was safe and nice.
Right. Well, yeah, it was great. It was like, and it wasn't good enough that it would kill us. And we were sniffing it. And like, you know, we were kids. And in the morning, I was like, this is the best I've ever felt. And I knew not to be a heroin addict, but I started working in TV production. And I worked it was a subsidiary of Broadway Video, which is what made Saturday Night Live. And it was this company that just made college TV. And I was like one of their on-air people, and I was like stupid and tried to be funny and whatever. And they made a music video show, and their music video show sucked. And they were like, Dave, do you want to try to make the music video show? And I was like, definitely. And I saw that KRS-One was playing at Tramps. And I was like, can I interview KRS-One for the video show? He's like, do whatever you want. I hook up the KRS-One interview. We go to Tramps. We shoot KRS-One performing. I interview KRS-One at Tramps. And then they were like, you can make your own show. It doesn't need to be a music video show. So I had this show where I interview whoever I wanted, and everybody would come to New York and play these tiny clubs. And I had this big company behind me, so they'd all do interviews. And as soon as that happened, they like gave me a contract, a 3-year contract. And in my head, I was rich. In reality, I was 23. I think I was making $80,000 a year. But $80,000 in 1999 is a lot of money. And I lived in public housing, and I was feeling really full of myself. And I was also feeling a lot of anxiety. Like I wanted to be cool. I wanted to not give a shit. And heroin was the answer. And I was fucking with it a few days a week. And when I got that contract, I was like, I can afford this. Even though I knew in my head, Miles Davis as a millionaire couldn't afford it. John Lennon, like as a millionaire, couldn't afford it. And I'm like fucking making $80,000 thinking I can pull this off. And I couldn't, but I wanted to not care so badly. That's all I wanted.
When did you become an IV addict?
A couple of years in. I wound up getting strung out, sniffing it, and I signed a 3-year deal for that company. I didn't make it to the 2nd year. I wound up getting strung out. I had to go to detox because I didn't have any money, and it was so sad. I could have told the company or my parents, and for some reason I chose to tell my parents. The company fired me for breach of contract. Then I'm living on fucking unemployment in Manhattan, and I'm bouncing between free detoxes and whatever. I went to a shitty rehab. Some dude, my roommate, was just like, let's go get high. And I left, and he's like, you're an idiot if you snort. And I was like, okay, let's shoot. Let's shoot then. And that was the beginning of me shooting. And I never snorted again. It's crazy to look back at it though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, because it's like if you're watching a movie, you're like, well, what do you think's going to happen? But when it's you, you're kind of like,
yeah, I mean, I think when people ask, how could you do that? How could you be so stupid or whatever? How could you do that? I think you, as a sober person, you're like, I don't even know. But if you really look at it, it's like you had this illness that you were medicating, and then the medication really fucks you up, and you don't have good judgment once you're doing it. Not to mention, it's incredibly addictive. And I don't know why I thought, I know that when I decided that I was going to sniff heroin every day, for a second, I thought I could pull it off. And then like I'm doing that calculation in my head over and over. How long can I be on this run? How long can I pull this off? And it was never long. But that's why like my story is so full of methadone. I was on methadone forever because I knew I couldn't afford to be on heroin.
Yeah, I watched a documentary called Methadonians.
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
Yeah.
I watched that when I was a kid. I was probably like 14.
You're like, I want to be like these guys.
I literally like almost cried because I was like on opiates already, thinking like, trying to get opiates every day was like just like the worst hell ever. And I watched this documentary and I was like, oh my God, I could be on. Like, I saw this lady doing ironing clothes and she had like a little job and she'd wake up and go get her methadone in the morning. And I remember being like, that looks fucking sick. I remember
why though? Because she had some freedom.
Because it was like you could be on methadone high.
Were you ever on methadone?
I had done it. I'd done it probably like 7-8 times when I couldn't get drugs. And I'm sure after when you do it for a long time, you don't really get high. But when I did it, I literally went to school the next day and I was like dancing. I felt so good. And it lasted almost all day.
It lasts like 2 days.
It was crazy. Amazing. And like you just felt so good. And like from, crushing up oxys and roxys, you feel good, but it kind of doesn't last as long. And I had never done methadone. It was the first time I did methadone. And when you're dope sick, you kind of don't want to, I don't want to experiment with things that aren't going to take the sickness away for sure. So it's like, if I only have $20 or $30, I don't want to try a new drug. I kind of just want to get what I know is going to not make me sick. So I'm not going to blow my $30 and then be dope sick for another day or something. So I'll never forget. I drove all the way to my buddy's house. It was like an hour drive. And he told me he had methadone. And I remember being like, but is it going to really work? And he was like, it's methadone, And I remember I went there and it was like the wafer and we like drank it with orange juice. And I drove back home and I went to school the next day and I fucking felt so good that I had this relief of like, can't wait till I turn 18. I could just be on this every day.
That's funny. That's weird and it's dark and it's fucking funny because methadone is so weird that it's so effective. It's weird that you can get a dose and be straight for a fucking 36 hours or something.
Yeah.
It's like a magical Nazi concoction.
It is. I mean, yeah. That's the one thing they did right. But it is interesting that, I don't know, like Suboxone came and like Subutex and Suboxone, that it kind of like took away that. But like when you were on methadone, I think there was still a stigma of like being subhuman, like you're on methadone.
I think that stigma makes sense though.
Yeah. But on Suboxone, there's this false, what's the opposite of a stigma? Like
I hear what you're saying.
You know what I mean? There's like this opposite stigma, positive stigma of it being like pretty okay and normal and not using, that people kind of like fall into this trap of being on Suboxone. And I kind of understand it now with fentanyl, because when I talk to parents, they're like, well, fucking Billy's overdosed 17 times in the last 6 months. We rather him be on Suboxone, which I'm like, hey, maybe it'll keep you alive, but it is a ticking time bomb. I just don't like when it's viewed as like an equivalent thing to being 100% clean and in recovery. And I'm not saying that if you're on Suboxone, you're less than me or anything like that. I'm just saying that it's still, I
like the way you're covering your bases here.
It's because people get mad. And I understand. I'm not trying to shit on anyone on Suboxone. Like, it's amazing that you're not on fentanyl and risking your life every day and you do have some type of manageability. But I've been on Suboxone before and I've been clean before. And having months clean feels like night and day difference than being on subs.
Well, it's the thing that I find to be just fascinating about Suboxone to me, like as somebody that was on methadone, I was never just on methadone.
Yeah.
Never. Like if I was on methadone, I was bummed out. If I was on methadone, I couldn't get $10 together or $2 together to get like a Xanax off the street. Like I was never just on methadone. And I find it wild that people are like, I'll just go on subs and then not do drugs.
Well, that's what the studies show. So the studies show that like majority of people on Suboxone cannot just do Suboxone. And it's kind of like, dude, you're giving a drug addict a drug with their own prescription. How long until this person's like, what could I sell these for? You know?
For me, it was like I got the prescription just so I could figure out this new currency.
And not just that, it's like for a lot of methadone addicts, methadone is the baseline to the other things they sprinkle on top of it. So it's like most people on Suboxone are really into benzos, and benzos and methadone is almost like exactly like heroin.
Yeah, that's great. I love that stuff.
And then they like smoke weed or whatever, but it's like the methadone is just what they need to do just to like be functioning.
I was on methadone.
How many years? And how much? What was your dose?
It was high. Like altogether.
Let me guess. Well, let me guess your average dose. I'm going to say 140.
It was basically 140. It was basically there. How do you know? It's big.
Cause no, I know 120 is like kind of high, but when you said high, I was going to say 140.
I think it got to 150, but it wasn't always there. So I'll give it a 130.
You got like take homes?
Rarely. I mean, in the end, I had it to a science.
I've always wanted to do like a methadone clinic TV show.
Oh, I did do you even seen the Methadone Minute on Dopey?
No.
The Methadone Minute, that was what I wanted to do so bad. I used to just hang out to listen to them talk. New York City methadone people have the best. In the beginning of Dopey.
You're a taxi cab confession guy, right? No?
I mean, I watched a bit of it.
You weren't like it, you didn't like it a lot?
I watched a bit of it.
So I watched it as like a little kid. Do you understand? I was probably like in 8th grade watching it. I was obsessed with that. I thought it was like the greatest show ever. But I wanted that type of show, but like on the methadone clinic.
Well, I mean, let's do it. The Methadone Minute. I've wanted to do that forever. I did it for a day. Like I did it for a day twice.
Would you just interview them?
Yeah. Yeah. But Methadonians, like it's hard to get a good one. You know what I mean? They're gonna like start talking about conspiracies.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're gonna start feeling judged that they're on methadone. Like I'll show you some Methadone Minute material.
Mm-hmm.
I just loved it. Was like, I'm not gonna pee today, Brenda. Let me pee tomorrow. How many take-homes can I get? You know, like all that fucking methadone talk is just the sweetest sound to my ears. New York City methadone talk, because it sounds like 1977. You go to the methadone clinic, it sounds vintage over there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like because also
how much is it now,
dude? It's nothing. I mean, like
$9 a day.
I can't quote a price. I was on methadone in New York for 2 years, right? Then I moved to LA and I was on methadone in LA for 6 years or something crazy. Mm-hmm. And I had the LA thing. Every methadone clinic I was ever on, if you pee dirty, they raise your dose. And until you don't.
What?
If you pee dirty, they raise your dose. That's the thing at the methadone clinic.
No,
so it's like,
wait, that you went to?
Every clinic that I went to, if I pee dirty, they raise my dose because the logic is, you obviously aren't blocked if you're using. So they raise the dose.
Well, wait. If you pee dirty on what? Like on opiates or on
benzos or opiates?
Any drug?
I don't think they cared about weed.
Okay.
I don't think they cared about weed.
But if you did benzos, they thought that methadone was blocking the benzos?
They thought you weren't getting enough methadone if you're still seeking other drugs. That was at the methadone clinic that I went to.
So they think that your cravings aren't going down because you're still wanting to do other drugs.
Yes.
God.
And in LA, I would wake up at 4 a.m. I would steal whatever money.
This is why you're a morning guy. It makes sense.
I would steal whatever money my girlfriend had, or like I would, and I would cop whatever dope I could get. I would shoot that dope and I would feel it. Then I'd go to the methadone clinic, and I would drink my methadone and buy benzos at the methadone clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would spend the day at home eating ice cream sandwiches and wandering around my neighborhood unemployed, taking out of focus pictures of flowers. Because I saw myself as this artist. Fat, fucking, I was so overweight.
Really?
Just eating cakes and ice cream sandwiches on methadone. Like it was really bad.
I feel like eating sweets on opiates is nice. Like
it's the best.
It feels great. Right?
I'm still very addicted to sugar.
Yeah, I love sugar too.
Serious sugar problem. And then when we started doing Dopey, right, I would talk shit about methadone all the time, and I would talk shit about methadonians, and and I could do the accent funny back then. I can't do it anymore because I'm not around Methadonians enough.
Do it.
And it's not coming out right. And I actually did it like I had this story I told about 9/11. Okay, because I was in New York for 9/11, and like basically I wake up on 9/11, and like I need to go to the methadone clinic. And,
that's it. That's so funny.
And my mom's like, my mom calls me and she's like, go check on your aunt and check on your sister. And I'm like, okay. I call them and I'm like, I gotta go to the methadone clinic. And I leave the house. Everyone's running up 8th Avenue, fleeing the World Trade Center, going, I'm off to walk down 8th Avenue. So I'm like the salmon swimming upstream, thousands of people. And I'm just like, do. I get to 14th Street. It's fucking tanks, troop trucks, fucking army people with machine guns. And I'm like, do. I'm like, I got to go across the street. They're like, are you fucking crazy? Nobody's going across the street. And I was like, no, I got to go across the street. And they're like, no one's going across the street. I said, no, I got to get my methadone. I got to get my medicine. And he's like, oh, well, do you have ID? I was like, yeah, I have ID. And I show him my methadone card. He waves me across the street with the machine gun. He's like, here you go. You get to the methadone clinic. You go downstairs. It's like 1977. It is not like the World Trade Center is falling down within a mile and a half. And everyone's like, I got to get my take homes. You know, it's like, it's not anything different. And I would tell that story on the 9/11 story. And for some reason, I was like, Brenda, because I decided every methadone worker's name was Brenda, because it's just a funny New York City kind of name. And let me pee tomorrow. And the Dopey Nation loved it when I said that. And they wanted me to repeat it over and over again. And I never did, because I never thought it could be funny again. But I wound up getting my methadone. They gave everybody free take homes on 9/11 because they didn't know if the world was going to end. Then I went to the bank. I emptied my whole bank account. I went to Brooklyn. I spent all my money on heroin, and I went home. I did. But I had like $100 or something. Yeah. But I emptied it. I spent every dollar on heroin, and I went home and I got high.
But wait, how are you getting high with the methadone in you?
You can get a little high.
You get a little high?
You get a little high. You feel it. It's not like subs. You don't feel it perfectly.
Okay.
You know, but you get a little high.
All right.
You know?
Subs, you go into withdrawal, right?
No, you're blocked. You go into withdrawal.
If you take it too early, right? Or something like that.
What is the thing with subs? The thing with subs.
I know people that like shots, like the Suboxone.
No, I hear that. I just learned about people that shoot methadone. I never even considered it, shooting methadone.
You wasted all those years.
I know. The Suboxone thing is, what is the thing with precipitated withdrawal?
I think if you take it too early, I think like if you've done opiates that day and then you take it,
you get sick.
You go into withdrawals.
That's horrible. That's just horrible. It's
just like, why? Why does it do that?
I was never in that situation. Thank God. That's the worst. Yeah, it's like, because it sponges out the fucking opioid receptors in your brain. And I feel very stupid that I've done this show for almost 9 years and I can't explain precipitated withdrawal. Like, I should be able to explain it better than I can explain it.
Nah, I think you did a good job.
Oh, thank you. I feel better.
Yeah, so my first sponsor was on methadone, and I remember when I would go to meetings and hear people share, I'll never forget. He was like, I was on heroin since I was like 14, and I was on methadone my last 2 years of using, and I was on methadone for 2 years and 2 months. And he would always say, like, if you've been on methadone, you always remember like those last 2 months. And I remember like the fact that he kicked methadone, I was like, this guy must be a real badass.
Oh man, kicking methadone's like the greatest thing. Fatherhood is great. Getting 13 stepped by a younger girl in AA.
How would that never happen to me?
Fantastic. But kicking methadone, it's like right up there.
Why?
I mean, if you're on methadone,
like the feeling of getting out of it.
Yeah. It is the greatest thing. I mean, when I kicked methadone, because I had been on it off and on from like whatever, fucking 23 to 34, off and on. And when I walked away from it, I was like, it was the first time I had a thought in my head that I'm not doing this again.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, that was the first drug. I was like, I'm done with that. I'm not doing it again. And I never did. And it was like, I remember all this like I wound up becoming addicted to heroin again. I wound up fucking with.
They say that's like nothing after you've kicked methadone.
It is. It's horrible. You know, everyone says shit like that. Oh, methadone's the worst. Oh, Suboxone's the worst. They're all the fucking worst. Kicking opiates is the worst. No matter, I mean, for me, kicking methadone.
So I feel this is something I agree with strongly, is that there's a lot of people who are taking like a little bit of Suboxone. And I always tell them, like, it ain't no different than if you're taking a whole bunch. Because if you're taking a whole bunch, you just got to get down to when you're taking not a little bit. And then all that shit's just going to hit you anyways. But if you've been doing opiates for years and you're doing a crumb of Suboxone in the morning, a crumb in the fucking middle of the afternoon, and then a crumb at night, like, eventually that fucking shit's going to hit you. Like, don't have, like, your addiction isn't that bad because you don't do that much Suboxone.
Well, it's the theory of relativity. The second you stop, you're going into withdrawal.
As hard as it would if you did fucking a shit ton. Like, I don't think that it's less.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Like, I think it's horrible. I think withdrawal is a scary thing, but it's incredible because when you start to get out of it, you actually can feel better. The fact that both of us went through opiate withdrawal and we're feeling pretty good right now, it's pretty amazing.
Well, there is like a high that you feel after it that you're like, this is what colors look like.
Right.
Like food tastes different. Like just being outside.
Freedom.
Yeah, it's like you really do feel like you walked off a prison yard. Like it does.
And you did.
Yeah, you did. You know, and it's like, you know, just being out in the world feels so good. And then it kind of like, for me, it dips down into like hardcore depression. And then I kind of have to like level out. But it really is a prison in itself. And that's why I tell people, like, so the way I explain it to people is like, I'm not saying Suboxone is bad, but it would be like you're in an 8x8 cell and now you're like in a 14x14.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are really scared to be on nothing. And I don't blame them. Like, I mean, it's just, I was so scared. I remember when I got off of heroin and I got off of benzos, I was terrified to get off of weed. And then when I got off of weed, I was even terrified to stop smoking cigarettes. I was literally feeling like if I stopped smoking cigarettes, I'd go into withdrawal. Like it was the same fear.
And you kind of feel like it's like you. It's like, I felt like it was my whole identity. So it was like what am I going to have left?
Who am I going to be if I'm not that?
Who would I be if I wasn't smoking or getting high or whatever?
I felt the same way. And how could I ever be? I mean, that's kind of like the real promise of recovery. It's what we want is how can we have fun and how can we be comfortable in our skin without taking it? And then you find all these other things that you do to be comfortable in your skin, you know, sex and lust and sugar and nicotine or whatever.
Yeah. You're still going to do some shit all the time, 24/7. It's just not going to make your life unmanageable or suicidal for the most part. It's like what I'm trying to do, and I'm not like, I'm going to sound like way more sober than I am, but I'm thinking a lot about like, how do I seek good endorphins instead of like the bullshit ones I'm fucking after all the time. Yeah, for sure. And it's like, you know, when you ask me like why I stopped doing like the porn, it's like adult entertainment was like really fun and cool. And like, it was fun, but it didn't feel rewarding, but I never expected it to, because I have all this recovery stuff that I do, you know? So like, even the podcast is really cool, but to me, even the podcast is kind of like not as raw as like service at a 12-step meeting, you know? To me, like that's like the ultimate thing that I do that's like really anonymous, and it's like, you know, just going to a meeting, just being a regular dude, you know? It's like, to me, like that stuff that I look towards to get what I want to get out of life. And like all the extra shit, it's truly extra shit.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes struggle. I mean, like, to be honest with you, like, I've been struggling with a little service lately, a little bit. Like, I've been struggling with service lately. Like, I've been getting asked to sponsor people who are totally crazy, and I don't want to say no, but they're totally crazy. And every call is like hell calling me. And I like find myself in a petty resentment in that situation. And like, I know I need to fucking get that shit together, because if I'm not doing that shit, I'm in trouble. You know what I mean? That is the solution. So it's like, I need to get back to that. I go to meetings every week. I chair a meeting once a week. I'm down to one sponsee, and my sponsee has like 35 years of recovery or something. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, he just never fucking did the thing, and he came back and he's like, will you take me through the steps? I was like, all right. Every other sponsee I have is like gone. And I know that when I'm in what you just described, like, I'm in a much better place.
Yeah, and I think that like I used to do way much more, and I think that like spending a lot of time and energy on, like, I should be at, like, tonight, like my friend was asking me if I was going to go to a meeting we normally go to on Tuesday, but I was doing the podcast. I do feel like this is still like some type of service to the community and the world, but I don't know. I also try not to beat myself up, because sometimes I can do that too, because it's like there are people who have way less clean time than I do that do so much in recovery, and then they use a year later or something, so it's like,
it's all balance.
Yeah.
It's all, and I believe, like, I spend a lot of time talking to people in recovery. Like, if I'm even like not the show, like in my day, I'm fucking on the phone with people in recovery all day. And I think we never met before, but it was obvious the second that we met that, like, we were right there. You know what I mean? And it's like, and it's that same thing.
Yeah, and that's fellowship. Actually recovery. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like one of the greatest cliches ever is like, if you have two alcoholics in recovery, it's a fucking meeting.
Yeah, for sure. And it really is, because it's like that feeling of like not being alone. Like, I remember the first time I called my sponsor and told him I felt like using, and I thought he was going to be like, don't using stupid. And he was just like, dude, me too. I'll call you later. Like,
right.
And that's when I was like, damn, he feels like using, but he just like, to him, it's just like, he's just going to deal with it. He can like bitch and cry about it all day, because he probably has been feeling like using off and on for so long that it's just, like, I didn't know that you could feel like using
and not use.
It's
incredible.
Or not it be like focus on it all day. To him, it was like, yeah, I feel like using, but I have to do things.
But in you calling him was like the greatest thing for him to get off of the subject. Like, I always think about Lord of the Rings. Like, you ever see Lord of the Rings?
Of course, yeah.
Like Gollum, like whenever before I was in recovery and I wanted to use and I used, it's the precious. You know what I mean? And if I wanted to use and I couldn't get out of that obsession, it's the precious. The drug was the precious. The obsession was the precious. And service is the opposite of Gollum. It's the opposite of like
selfish.
Mine.
Yeah, and honestly, there's really nothing better than hanging out with like a newcomer, and like you just vent to them about all your problems, and they're just expecting you to have it like all together, and they're just like, "Fuck,"
because you're showing them the magic that life is life. You're not Bruce Lee just because you have fucking.
And they're looking at you like, "Dude, you have it all,"
right?
And you're just like, "No, dude." I'm like, my friend got out of rehab not too long ago, and I was going through this breakup. And dude, he like was losing teeth. He like gained all this weight. He like lost everything. He was like suicidal. He's been in and out of treatment for years. And I went over there and I was just like, I'm going to tell you about my problems. And he was looking at me like, dude, do you know what the fuck I'm going through?
You were like my hot porn star girlfriend.
My hot porn star girlfriend. Yeah. Fucking, we broke up. I'm heartbroken.
You're like, now I'm gonna have sex with 3 other hot porn stars.
Now I'm gonna have to fuck all these other girls. It's gonna be horrible. And he's just like, I don't have front teeth.
He's like, I don't have teeth.
Yeah. But it is crazy that, you know, the longer you stay clean, like you still have problems.
I know but it's like you're always going to have problems.
Mm-hmm.
Life will always be life. But the more you're in solution, the easier it is to deal with your problems. And the less you're in solution, like shit gets stupid. Like when I'm not in it, like people are talking to me, like I hear people talking about living in 10, 11, and 12. I'm hearing that more and more and more. And I'm like, fuck you. You're not in fucking 10, 11, 12. You're fucking bullshitting, But it's like you are in 10, 11, and 12 when you make a real effort to be there. Like I just think it's bullshit when someone says it, but it's really that I'm fucking not there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that man, like I know a guy who's like super, super spiritual, but dude, when he goes out to eat and they get his order wrong, he fucking loses his mind.
So how spiritual is
and it's like we all have things that fucking grind our gears or we are not fucking whatever about. And it's like, I don't know. You know what? The longer I stay clean, I just try to, because a lot of my friends that don't go to meetings, their biggest thing is like, well, I don't like this person and this person's full of shit or whatever. And it's like, I always try to tell people is that, like it says like in our literature is like, focus on your own recovery, and it's like, that's really the trick to consistently go to meetings, because if you just start looking at everyone else and what they're doing wrong, that's kind of the beginning of differentiating yourself from the group.
Yeah, it's blocking the sunlight of the spirit.
Yes.
It's like whenever I'm at a loss at a meeting, and I'm usually if I don't go for like a week, I fucking hate the meeting. If I miss the meeting for a week, I'm like, look at these fucking losers. I can't believe I'm here. And like when I'm there, I know what my head always goes back to. Love and tolerance is our code. And it's like, oh my God, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard. Love and tolerance is our code. I love that. And then happy, joyous, and free. That's all I've ever wanted to be. And it's like when I get, and like being honest, open-minded, and willing. And when I get into those three little groups of words, I'm like, okay, I can't, if I hate this person, like I'm just hating on myself. I have to be loving. I have to be tolerant, or else like and it's not about being a spiritual giant. It's just about trying to enjoy my life. Yeah. Like I need to do these things just to enjoy my life, or else I'm a fucking dick.
Yeah, because the acceptance part is like, I've accepted that I'm going to go to these meetings for the rest of my life. And I want to go to these meetings for the rest of my life. And a lot of people that I've gotten clean with that has stopped going to meetings, I would say 98% of them have lived a downward hill life.
If they stop going.
If they stopped going. I don't care if they used or they didn't use. There's a night and day difference of their life before meetings and after meetings and during meetings. And I know that I'm going to go to meetings for the rest of my life. I hope that I go to meetings for the rest of my life. And it's like, man, if I could just enjoy it and focus on like the things that I have to do, to me, it's like when I go to the gym, I'm just trying to get my workout in. And when I go to a meeting, like I'm trying to find a couple things that help me out through the day and say something encouraging to somebody. And like, that's it. I'm not like, I didn't go there to like make a whole bunch of, sometimes I go to meetings, I don't even know anyone there because like people have changed and the meeting has changed or whatever. So I don't know. I think like when I lower my expectations, I have a better experience.
Totally. But I mean, like, I don't know. Life is long, and life can be really boring. And I think like, and some meetings are long and really boring. But it's like, I find the more I add to my life in every capacity, new shit, new people, new things, like ideas, doing service, it's just adding fucking good shit. And all good shit makes your life better, and it can make you happier. And then you can be of good service to society, whatever. I do it all because I just don't want to be miserable. I don't need to get high to be happy. I'm a happy person, but I need a lot of action to maintain happiness. And like the meeting, it's like, oh, look at this guy. Oh, he said something interesting, or I need fucking input all the time.
Yeah, I feel like I had years of my life where it was like getting boring. And like the last couple of years, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to fucking do all this crazy shit. And now I'm like, fuck, I really had it all. Like, why did I go and fuck it up? And I think that's just like,
that's life.
That's life. You know, it's like sometimes you think you're in a valley and you're at the fucking top.
That's deep.
And
I'm
it's
with
like,
you.
dude, there are times where I look back and I was like, damn, I was fucking on top of the world. And like, what was I complaining about? Or like, what wasn't I having, you know? And it's like fucking now I like have a new venture or a new thing that I want to do. And now I'm stressed the fuck out. It's not going as planned. And I'm like,
I had it so good.
But at the same time, it's like, sometimes you want to push yourselves and do new things to feel alive. Cause I feel like Tony Robbins talks a lot about like progress is like what makes us feel alive, whether it's little progress or a big progress. But as long as you know you're progressing in something, like the podcast, like you want your podcast to keep growing, like in fitness and wealth or whatever, you want to be making some type of progress to feel like you're doing something. But sometimes I just want to make this huge change, and it has a huge consequence too, you know, a huge downside too.
Give me an example.
I mean, an example could be working out. Like I could be like, you know what, I'm gonna fucking go really hard at working out, and then I'll get obsessed about running, and I'll fucking run and all this shit, and then I'll fucking hurt my fucking foot, and now I can't even walk.
Right.
And now I'm in the fucking hospital in crutches for fucking 6 months.
Because you went too hard.
I could have just fucking stick to being a little in shape, you know? So it's like sometimes it's like we're really chasing things at such a hard pace that we injure ourselves or take a big ass risk. I've done it with finances. You know, this one time I was like, oh, you know, this business is doing so well. Why don't we start 5? You know, we started 3 other ones and fucking all 3 of them fail, and it's stressful, and now I just wish I just was fucking chilling and not doing anything.
And how do you have balance? It's all about balance. Because I'm the same way. I'm adding shit and I don't have room to add shit. And I'm adding all this shit, and like I'm like, this isn't working. And I'm like, why isn't this working? Because there was never enough time to do what you're trying to do. And I'm like, I just want everything to go exactly the way I want. And I want everything to be super successful. And I'm adding like, you know, the 10 pounds of life into a 2-pound bag or some shit, and it cannot hold.
Yeah. I started a business that I thought would cost, you know, $50,000. And I thought that would be like simple business, brainless, put someone in charge. Me and this other guy each going to put up $50,000. And then it's like, dude, it needs another $5,000, needs another $10,000, and needs another this. And I'm not really involved. I don't really care about it too much. And like 3 years goes by, and I'm like, damn, we've dumped $250,000 each into this fucking business. So I think a lot of times, like not having my own parameters and not knowing when to take it in the back and just shoot it in the head is like, sometimes your ego just is like, nah, dude, it's going to work.
Would you say your ego is not your amigo?
I would say mi amigo, no es mi amigo.
Okay.
That's the proper way to say it.
Thank you.
No, but yeah, of course. I mean, humility is a difficult thing to practice at you know, your point in your life when you're trying to do something that a lot of people might be saying you shouldn't do it or whatever. You want to prove them wrong. And sometimes they might be right, or it's just a wrong situation or a wrong business partner, a wrong business plan. And sometimes it'll discourage you from doing new things.
Yeah. It's hard to know when to stop though, especially as an addict.
Yeah. Cause you read all these success stories of like all these crazy businesses, and you're like, oh, well, fucking, we just believed, you know,
got to stick with it.
Can't and stop. We just stick with it forever. And it's like, dude, sometimes
that's my fucking approach to everything though.
Me too.
And I'm like, dude, I say that to everybody. I'm like, well, if you stop going, you're not going to get there. If you stop, you're not going to get there. You know what I mean? And I believe it. I really do. I believe it. I don't know when you're supposed to stop. I don't know, but I am a fucking drug addict.
I think that if I enjoy it,
it's worth it.
And it's not ruining me financially, it's worth it. You know?
Right. And it's not the consequences somewhere else aren't negative by all means.
Yeah.
It's all about unmanageability.
Amen. When did you start to think about getting clean? Like, seriously?
I didn't. Like, I thought about it. I didn't think about it. Like, I was not. I remember when I was in LA and I was on that methadone, I knew I should get clean. Like, and I would see a therapist, and the therapist would talk to me about harm reduction. And I would be like, oh, so that means I can use. You know what I mean? Harm reduction for me was permission to use. I love the sound of it. I was like, that's great. Yeah, I can use. So I tried harm reduction, but like I told you, like when I was on methadone, I was taking a lot of benzos every day and doing heroin every day and smoking weed every day. I didn't consider, I found out my mom called me and I found out she had leukemia and I was in LA and I knew I could not go home on methadone. Like I wasn't going to do that. So that's when I decided that I was going to get off methadone. And I started this kick. I think it took me a year. I went on a blind detox at the methadone clinic for like a year. And
why was it so long? That's how they did it back then?
I mean, I think I was afraid. I don't think I was in a hurry. I think I wanted it to be as easy as possible. I just think that's how we did it. Maybe 10 months. I don't know. And we did it like that. I got off methadone and I moved back east. And I was like, that's when I was like, I'm done with methadone. I'm done with heroin. I thought. I kept smoking weed. My mom died. And I dipped and dabbed a bit with like Percocets or benzos if I found them, but not really the benzos, and with weed. And I didn't want to be sober. I wanted to be a stoner. You know, I wanted to be a stoner. Then I met my daughter's mother and I got her pregnant really quickly. And I still didn't want to get sober. I remember we go to live birthing classes and my pockets would be full of heroin. Like I relapsed on heroin at, like shortly after she got pregnant. And I would use here and there, and I never wanted to get sober. And then we had the baby. I went and she was like, you got to go to a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist is like, you have a lot of anxiety. Do you want benzos? I was like, yes, give me 2 milligrams of Xanax. And so like, I was just using, I didn't want to get sober. I didn't want to get sober until it took me forever. My daughter's mother saw me shooting up and she left me and she took the baby. And I still didn't really want to get sober. Like it was just, I didn't want to get sober until years later. I had fake trying to get sober, and me and my daughter's mother, I was trying to get back together with her forever. And my daughter was 4 and for some reason, my daughter's mother was kind of interested in getting back with me, but knew I wasn't in shape to do it. I was still smoking weed. And we went on this trip to this amusement park in Pennsylvania called Dutch Wonderland. And my daughter's mother is a normie. You know, she like drinks casually. She'll take like a little sliver of a Xanax to help her sleep if she's in a strange bed or something. And I knew that. And I found all her Xanax and I took it on the trip. And she got fucking so angry at me. And she wound up saying, she found out that I was taking Klonopins and she was like, you're losing your custody. And I had spent a year fucking getting my hair clean, like not interested in sobriety, but interested in fatherhood. I was like, I just want to be a stoner. I just want to be this chill fucking stoner dad who like can fuck with it a little bit. Whatever. And I knew I wasn't that guy, but I wanted to be that guy so bad. And she's like, nope, you blew it. You're taking pills. You blew it. And it was August of 2015. And I'm writing her this letter. I lived on the Lower East Side, fucking 90 degrees in the apartment. I'm sitting in my kitchen writing her an email, begging her to let me smoke weed, begging her, saying, I can handle 2 days. What's the difference if I smoke weed? I'm like chain smoking Marlboro Reds, probably taking bong hits as I write the letter. And I like saw my hands writing the letter. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I was like, I'm 41. I have a 4-year-old kid. I'm a waiter in a deli. I'm subletting this apartment. And this is basically the best my life has been in fucking 15 years. And I'm begging for permission to smoke weed from somebody who'd probably have a family with me if I didn't. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try. And I didn't send the email, or maybe I don't even know what I did. Next morning, I found an AA meeting, went to the AA meeting. There was a dude getting 10 years. And he was like you. He was like good looking and young. And he probably got sober when he was 18. I was like, who the fuck is this guy? I'm 41. And I go up to the guy like to fuck with him. And I'm like, you're pretty annoying that you're so young and you got 10 years. And he's like, oh, how much time do you have? And I was like, I have nothing. And he goes, well, do you have today? And I was like, I do. And he goes, well, is today going to be your first day? And I was like, I hadn't considered that. I was like, maybe it is. And I went home and I called my best friend and I had him come over. I gave him all my weed and I brought all my edibles to Katz's and I gave out all my edibles to people at Katz's. And I found an AA meeting that met every morning at 7:30 in the morning. And there was a guy there, a painter from New Zealand. I told him my whole obsessed with my family story. And he said, we'd love it if you came back tomorrow. And I had never heard that at a meeting. Like I was always on the outskirts. I just wanted to use. I didn't fucking care.
Yes. I was going to ask. So prior to this, your introduction to 12-step meetings is kind of like just hanging on the wall and leaving?
Yeah. I didn't want to get sober.
You didn't believe, you never heard anything that really moved you?
I didn't want to get sober. I didn't want to stop using. I would go because I knew I couldn't afford to be on heroin. And I would hear, if you want to get high, call me. And I'd be like, if I want to get high, I'm going to get high. I'm going to call a dealer. Like, I'm not going to call you. And I loved getting high. I just loved getting high so much. In the end, I had this epiphany. And the epiphany was, if I'm lucky, I'll live to be 82. I'm 41. This is half my life and it sucks. Like, what would sobriety give me if I commit myself to it? And it was right about then that I heard somebody, I think they read How It Works every day from the big book. And I never went to AA before. I never even drank. I just fucking needed a spiritual solution. And I heard them read How It Works and they say, we've rarely seen anyone not achieve these results who thoroughly follows the path. And I was like, I never thoroughly did shit. I want to do it. I want to see what happens. And I did it. I took every suggestion. I did 90 and 90. I was like, I'm doing this. And I really got better. That was how I did it.
It's crazy how that works.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's kind of like when people are obese and you're like, dude, if you just ate less and worked out more, you would lose weight.
I still feel like that. I look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, I'm disgusting. And then I literally like stuff my face every night with every like graham crackers, and I make s'mores nightly in the microwave. Why am I so fat? And I'm making s'mores nightly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult. And I've been there with my weight too. There's like years where I was trying to lose 15, 20 pounds and I would lose 8 and gain 10. And I'd lose 10 and gain 12. And I just couldn't like really push it. And during COVID, I was like, dude, if I don't get in shape, I'm going to get fat because we're stuck at home. I'm going to eat ice cream and fucking pick, because I binge. So I'll eat super clean for weeks at a time. But when that fucking switch goes off, dude, I'm ordering pizza, Taco Bell, Chipotle, mashed potatoes and macaroni and fucking ice cream. And I'm just going to fucking, and I'll like, almost like I'm smoking crack. Like I'm not answering my phone. I'm like putting the blinds up, shutting off all the lights, watching movies. And I'm just going to pig out all day long.
I swear when I open up, when my family's like going to bed, I swear to God, yes. I open up boxes of cookies like they're heroin bags, desperate to get them open. And I just start shoving my face. And the feeling I have is I don't want this to end.
Do you? So for me, like when I eat bad, it's as soon as everyone's gone.
Yeah.
It's like that same thing where it's like, I ate good all day. These people came over and I ordered a salad, But then, like, if I'm really feeling it, like eating bad, it needs to be when no one's around, and I'll just do it.
It's a delicious pleasure.
Yeah, it's like there's something about that. It's just like behind closed doors type of naughtiness.
It's for me, it's the stuffing my face. And it reminds me of like smoking cigarettes. Like I would be smoking cigarettes. I'd be, I don't want to stop today. And I wouldn't. And that's how I am with I mean, that's how I am, you know?
Yeah, I'm really bad with cookies, but I also get pretty crazy with working out. Like during COVID, I got in the best shape of my life. I was like, dude, I'm turning 30. I don't want to be 30 and out of shape. I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. I was running 10, 15 miles at a time.
Amazing.
And I read the David Goggins book. I was reading Scars and Stripes by Tim Kennedy. I read like all these Navy SEAL, Robert O'Neill's books, The Operator. And I got in such good shape. And it's hard to maintain. But it's that same energy, you know, just in fitness or something. You know, you start to overwork out or work out pretty excessively.
It's about a routine and balance and like, I mean, I had this dream of like, I'm going to be 50 on June 1st. And I had this dream of getting in the best shape. I've never been in good shape. Like I've never been in good shape. And I had this dream of getting in the best shape of my life at 50. And that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm going on this big fitness podcast, I think.
Okay.
Next month, like supposedly this very big fitness podcast. And I'm fucking not fit at all. You know what I mean? I'm not fit at all.
You're off heroin. That's
but I mean, that's not an off. This is an off heroin podcast. That's a fucking fitness podcast.
That's funny.
I know. And I'm like, I have like 19 days. What am I going to do? And I'm like thinking tonight, what am I going to eat?
You're also not 300 pounds. I'm sure. What was the biggest you've ever been?
I would say 20 pounds heavier than this.
Okay.
But I'm like, I weigh probably 200 pounds. Maybe the heaviest I've been is like 225. But I'm tall. But like, it's also, I'm fucking, what's that thing when your brain.
Body dysmorphia?
Yeah, I have severe body dysmorphia.
Yeah, because you act like you're like obese or something.
I have severe body dysmorphia. It's like I'm a fucking, and now I'll be misogynist. It's like I'm a girl. I look at myself and I'm like, I'm disgusting.
Yeah, I think anybody who works out, this one time I messaged this girl and she had abs since I've known her years and she just always had ripped abs. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, how do you have abs all the time? And she was like, body dysmorphia.
So how does that work for her?
I mean, she probably is so hard on herself.
Right.
That she looks in the mirror and thinks she's fat all the time.
Right.
You know, I did have an epiphany one day because I still am into really into working out and lifting weights and running, and I am into this, but not as much as I used to. But my first four years clean, I was really like in an unhealthy, obsessive way about it. And I would look in the mirror and hate what I saw, and I would really nitpick at my little belly fat, and I didn't like to be shirtless unless I had abs, and like the whole Jersey Shore bullshit, like trying to be as jacked as possible, only eating fucking salads, never having a carb or a crouton. And I remember I saw this girl, she posted something that said, I don't work out because I hate my body. I work out because I love my body. And I was like,
that's deep.
Damn, I work out because I hate my body.
Right.
I work out because I'm like, I'm disgusting and I hate the way that I look. I'm not like, you know what? I'm going to reward myself and really, you know, treat myself good. And like you're cleaning your house or something. I'm over there like, this place is a shithole, you know?
Well, I love that phrase, eating clean. Like that's like a nice phrase. Like that's a phrase that can get you to eat well.
Yeah.
I got into this.
Yeah. Instead of like, I'm dieting, like I don't eat bullshit.
Right. I'm good except dessert, man. I'm fucking not great with dessert.
I love the bread, dude.
I love the bread.
My friend's fucking jacked right now, abs, everything. He just turned 40, so his thing was, when I turn 40, I want to be in great shape.
Yeah.
And he's in such good shape right now. It's blowing my mind. I'm like, what the fuck did you do? He said, no bread. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, none. I'm like, no bread? He's like, no bread, barely any carbs.
Right.
I was like, what?
I did that during COVID. I lost 30 pounds or something. Yeah. And I looked at myself and I was like, it's still not enough. Like I'm fucking it's sick.
You gotta do some. You gotta work out, and you gotta do some affirmations. It's a combination of both of them.
I need to do affirmations.
When I opened the treatment center, prior to that, I was such a fitness nut, and I told myself that I'm gonna work so hard at the treatment center, I'm gonna give up working out. I didn't work out for like a year and a half. I gained like 40 pounds. I got so fat. I thought it was funny. I was like, because for years people would see me as like the super fit guy,
right?
You know. And now people are like, could you imagine Bryan got fat? And, I was pretty chubby. I had like a double chin. I had stretch marks because I had gained so much weight. I was eating gas station ice cream for breakfast.
Sounds like
I just let myself go. And I was just working at the treatment center. And I loved it. Like I would look at my body and be like, this is cool. Like I have this fat belly. Because I knew in my mind, if I really wanted to, I could turn it away. Whereas before I was so attached to what I look like.
Right. So detachment.
I
like it.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Well, hey man, I try to do a longer podcast because I know that's your style.
It's long though.
I know. And I
had fun though. I feel like we got to know each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think tomorrow we will hit it off again. And you can ask me more questions and you can.
Oh, we're going to go down the deep, dopey rabbit hole.
I'm excited.
Me too. Thank you, Bryan.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Right on.